So, I mean, obviously the narrative is a huge central focus of the game, but also in
Oh, yeah.
point-click adventure games, what people focus on too are the puzzles. But those, I know from talking to multiple devs who've made puzzle-focused narrative games, it can be very difficult to design puzzles and solutions, and regards a ton of playtesting of, is this too hard? Is this too easy? And then
Absolutely.
before you know it, you've been spending 4 weeks on one puzzle that someone solves in 30 seconds. You're like, damn, that's not what I wanted. So can you guys talk about that process, about designing the puzzles and the challenges and the way to tackle the game?
Yeah, I mean, one of the main things we wanted to avoid was moon logic. A lot of the classic games, as good as they are, there were some ridiculous things that you simply could not figure out without sheer luck or, one of those player guides or a 800, 900 number that you had to call for a tip back in the day. We definitely wanted to avoid that sort of thing, but we also wanted to balance it. So, there's plenty of signposting in the dialogue with characters. If you're stuck and you're not sure what you're doing, you can talk to somebody. We also have a hint system in the notebook where you pull up your tasks list, which is already kind of a hint in its own regards, like leading you, kind of nudging you in the direction you need to go. But there is a hint button you can click on that it doesn't spell out exactly what you're supposed to do, but it'll give you extra clues on it. So that's kind of how we balanced, as far as difficulty with the puzzles themselves. So we didn't want anything to be too easy, especially later in the game, but we also didn't want it to be too hard.
So Chris, humor is all about toting that line, as like sometimes crossing it, sometimes undershooting it. It's very important to be funny, to always teeter that line of humor. You guys were published by Serenity Forge. Did that limit you in your humor or your storytelling or your jokes in any way, or did they tell you kind of go crazy?
Oh, not at all. No, they didn't limit us in any sort of fashion in that way. We've known some of the folks over at Serenity Forge before a lot of the game development started and everything. So I think that Serenity Forge knows kind of what we go for, and they trust that we know our audience that we're communicating to. There wasn't a single instance of, hey, you need to wind this back or change that, which is actually how we prefer. We have in the past walked away from situations when asked to do that, with things like some of our animations or shows and whatnot. We just prefer not to work in that kind of censorship heavy boundary.
Was there any point in time, like during certification, where they said, oh, you have to remove this or you have to change that? Because I know that's something that's kind of out of your hands, because you guys are on Nintendo Switch, which is amazing, because Nintendo Switch is the family console, right?
Right. No, didn't have to change anything, didn't have to reel anything back. Nintendo themselves, no, they didn't ask us to do anything like that. And it's great. I know that Switch is known as the family console, but I play a lot of more mature games on there. Like Carrion is a great example. There's plenty of crassness and gore on there, so it's nice to. I do appreciate the shock that some people have had, being like, "Whoa, you guys are on the Switch," and some people think that would mean that we pulled punches, but I would say that we didn't.
It is pretty surreal seeing the image for our game alongside Mario there. It's just like they may look like they're from similar cartoonish worlds in a way, but very, very different. I mean, that said, like Chris has mentioned, there's plenty of rated M games on the Switch. It's just not what Nintendo is known for, obviously.
I'm curious if any of you guys ever played a game. It was a really underrated game. It's not really relevant, but have you guys ever played a game series called Death Spank at all?
I've heard of it. I haven't got to play it yet now, but I've definitely heard of it. I was playing your game last night. It's I'm seeing a lot of similarities in terms of humor. It's very over the top and funny, but still enjoyable. It was interesting to see that, because my wife loves those games. You can't find them very much, especially point and click adventure games. They don't really make them, and I don't know if that's because they don't sell well or because it just takes so much time to develop a narrative with interesting puzzles to do. Because let's face it, making an island with a weapon where you kill people is really easy from just a design standpoint. Just kill the other person. That's the whole game, right? There's no story, there's no VO. It's just kill the other person. This one has
a narrative driven focus. Like you have a story that you want to tell, and it has to be told in an interesting way that challenges the player.
Yeah, I mean, Chris can chime in on this. Just the sheer amount of lines that were written for Coop alone, the amount of lines he had to record, and that's just one of the characters in the game. It's staggering. So yeah, it's a lot of work. And you also, once you have that recorded, we're also localized in a number of languages. So all that stuff that's in the game has to be localized in text to all these other languages as well. So it is a truckload of work for sure. But we think it's something that benefits anyone playing it, because there's just a whole lot more to do. If you're willing to explore and look around. And that was one of the other things. A lot of adventure games you'd play through just once and you're kind of done with it and stuff. But we wanted to give people things that give it replay value. So you can find side quests, you can find costumes hidden if you click around enough. You can just find a really stupid joke that'll make you laugh your ass off just by clicking on this one little thing. So that's kind of the idea that we carried with us going through the whole game.
Oh, as far as the voice acting goes, yeah. With my character alone, I recorded over 8,000 lines. Our recording booth, was kind of like a padded cell for me for a while, so I could run through all those and make adjustments and rewrites and stuff like that. And but yeah, we're not completely foreign to all of that due to the nature of how we make cartoons, what have you. So the familiarity is nice, and the 8,000 lines sounds crazy, but it was a fun time.
No, just out of curiosity, why is your character's name Coop? Like, why did you decide on that name?
There's kind of quite a few references that there's like a lot of references all over the game, sure, but there's some references that I just liked internally, and Coop is kind of inspired by and the name and everything comes from Coop Cooper from basketball.
I fucking knew it. I knew it. I was like, if this is what he's throwing it back, like, come on, Coop, what's going on? Like, I'm just like, that sounds what it's like. Yeah.
This is Coop Cooper you're talking about here.
Exactly, and I love what Matt and Trey do, and then that's all. It's just a very sticky name, and there's a lot of I don't know. It's fun to play around with all the people bullying and insulting him, and yeah, good call, man. Good call.
And we do have a lot of amazing character names in the game too that are just everyone has their favorite. Like one of my personal favorites is Peter Tinklage, who's just a guy at the urinal. I love it. It's just it never ceases to make me laugh. So just things like that.
They say sometimes the obvious jokes are the funniest ones, right? Like,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we one of our running jokes amongst the writers and all, we say like half of the characters in the game sound like Garbage Pail Kids. So
yeah. And it's become a point where it's starting to play into the storyline and some of the future installments a little bit too. So we've made a sport of being silly and extremely on the nose with some of the names, and that works great when we misdirect people later, for example.
Mm-hmm.